just going to read a few names for people who sponsored the evening. Later on, if you want to give us a name to pray for, then you can ask Libby in the door. We have a page on our website where you can actually put a name to pray for. And then, because once we used to do it with handwriting, and I would go to the graves and like waste my time on the names. So I go once a week. I live in Tzfat, about a 5-minute walk from about 400 tzaddikim. So a very, very holy place. We go down to the graves there, the Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, the famous, the notorious Arizal, and his students, and his rabbis, the Ramak, and Yosef Karo, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I mean, we're surrounded with thousands of kivrei tzaddikim. So I go there and I have lists that I pray for, and once a month we do it with a minyan of men. So once I used to go with papers, and it's just too hard. So we have a place on the website where you can put the name, so you can take the information from Libby on your way out, just to pray for. So we're going to quickly just mention the names for Refuah Shlema for Ariela Bat Livsha Leah, and Hodaya, thanking for the open miracle that happened to Noah Rivka Bat Golda. Refuah Shlema, an immediate recovery for Chava Dina Etya Bat Tzipora Sheva, and for Shidduch for Razel Bat Bolisa, and also Refuah Shlema for Miriam Bat Bolisa, Refuah Shlema for Shemuel Yochanan Ben Tzivia, and for the next list of names, Hashem should bless them with long life, health, should marry off their children, should be big in the Torah, mitzvot, masim tovim, and so forth. Eliana, Sora or Sarah, we're not sure. Leah, but Liora Yasmin. Tehila Rachel, but Liora Yasmin. Pinchas ben Liora Yasmin. Naftali Tzvi ben Shprinza Leah. Chana bat Shprinza Leah, and David ben Shprinza Leah. And the last name I'm going to mention is my mother, Chana Miriam bat Rita Rachel. She also needs a refuah shlema. And a general blessing to anyone who needs health, should have refuah shlema and an immediate recovery. Anyone who needs parnasa, livelihood, yirat shamayim, love to Hashem, miracles in their life. Anything that you need, Hashem should bless you in the best way possible, in the most easiest way, with prosperity and happiness and all the good blessings. And everybody needs, Am Yisrael needs a lot of blessing now. So before we start, very special thanks to Susie for opening her home as usual, and always hosting and preparing and getting everybody together. And needless to say, yesterday we had a beautiful lecture about how important it is to participate in acts of kindness, and to participate in what's called Zikuy Arabim, that you're making many people enjoy and learn Torah, get affected from the Torah. This is one of the greatest, if not the most powerful mitzvah that one needs to have on their record, is to give merits to many others. So Susie is doing it amazing, and there's also always a few other co-sponsors in the back, and I'm sure a lot of people carrying chairs and moving things and running to get tripods. And so the Mishnah says, Chut harabim mesayatam. The merit of the public gives you a lot of siyua, a lot of help and assistance. And when somebody is depending on you, then you have a special supervision from the heavens. I always say you have Secret Service agents around you. When you care about other people, then you have that on your back, which is, needless to say, something that everybody wants to have. So I'm going to bless you all again with happiness and health and success and nachat from the kids, and marry off the kids, and have kids, and all these good blessings. And Be'emet Be'ezrat Hashem, Hashem should bless us all to finally see the redemption and the coming of Mashiach very soon. And one more thing before we start, because I know they're broadcasting it. As Libby announced, we're doing a raffle, which you can buy tickets. First prize is a beautiful handmade artistic necklace from a local artist in Tzfat. They're very, very special. They're very meaningful. Needless to say, the proceeds, they go to our institute. We have a yeshiva, we have a shul, we have a women's midrasha, and many other amazing programs that we have. Susie mentioned how she's enjoying the YouTube. So I'm just going to give, I don't usually leak out information, but there's a iPhone and Android app in the making, which is going to be state-of-the-art with features that even E.T. could not think of. And many amazing things that is coming out. And needless to say that those apps are very, very pricey. So we're always looking for ones who want to participate in stuff like that. But nevertheless, so I don't even know how I got to the app. So the necklace, is going to be first prize, and the second prize that we're going to auction will be a year subscription to the Be'er Miriam online Torah Academy, which has thousands and thousands of hours of courses. Everything has to do with Torah and Zohar and Kabbalah, stuff that you don't find on YouTube, and all the other rest of the social networks. And of course, the proceeds go to all the good things that we're trying to do. And last but not least, please, if you don't mind turning off your phones, the world can wait an hour and a half. If you're recording or taking pictures, that's something else, but we don't want all sorts of bzzz and to disturb us. And we are in a very, very auspicious time now in our generation that Mashiach is here, and we're just waiting for him to be revealed. Not here in Woodmere. Here it means, listen, you never know. Yesterday the lecture was in Great Neck. I said, Mashiach is here. Everybody's like, Great Neck? Why, he must have a lot of money. So here, on earth, and needless to say, he's in Eretz Israel. People think maybe he's walking around in Rio de Janeiro looking for something. And a lot of people say, what, you believe somebody is? Well, if Mashiach has to come tonight, it has to be a human being. And he has to be at least 13 years of old, so he can, so he can take the control. But yes, Mashiach is here. And yesterday we had a very, very powerful lecture it's already on Facebook. It was broadcast. It's going to go on the website very soon, and I highly recommend you watch it, because it wasn't a lecture of jokes and funny stuff. It was what's going on in the world right now, and everybody have to understand that Mashiach is here, and the world is about to get a very, very big shake. And just today, somebody texted me, because yesterday I was talking about the severity of the threats that we have around the world, anti-Semitism, wars, and so forth. And in the morning, somebody that attended the lecture texted me that, I'm sure you know, there's a huge riots in Paris, and on Shabbat, all the synagogues were closed. Nobody was daring to go out to the street. All the synagogues announced, we are closed, do not come. This is a sakanat chaim, life-threatening. This is not a joke, because 80 years ago in Germany when that happened, people said, it will pass. It's just a few hooligans. And it didn't pass, of course. So we have to understand that we are in a very auspicious time, because any second the redemption can happen. And we have to start realizing that the world is about to change. And if you don't prepare yourself for the change, then chas v'shalom doesn't mean that everybody will be included in the change. And the change can come in a very good way. We have two options. We have prophecies that if we do tshuva as a nation, then the redemption will come nice and smooth. And if we don't do tshuva, then we have clear prophecies that it's going to come with a war, a huge war, and a huge destruction. So we have a responsibility as a nation that we have to get our act together. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to find now 15 million Jews around the world and make them observe Shabbat. You need a group that are very devoted and dedicated to the Torah and for the well-beings of others, and they do real tshuva, and the redemption comes smooth. So our goal is to bring the redemption smooth and not to start dealing with nuclear bombs. So, and the reason I'm giving this preparation is because we chose to talk about a topic that is, many people know the quote. They might not know where the quote comes from and what's the origin to it, but I'm sure you heard the quote at least once, that in the merit of righteous women, we went out of the exile of Egypt, and in the merit of righteous women, we're going to be redeemed from this exile. So the lecture is not only for women. I mean, I know the majority here now is women, but also the men need to know what prize they have, because most men don't understand that they're lucky that their wife is even looking to their direction. So when I got engaged, Baruch Hashem, I have a very harsh, rough, and straight to the point rabbi, and he made me realize that I have to thank my wife 15 times a day that she's even willing to get married with me. So, most men think that they are the prize. No offense to the men, but usually men, they think they are the prize, but it's other way around. So the lecture is not just for women. A lot of people emailed us, is this just for women? So no, it's not for women. First of all, the women need to know what they need to do, and the men need to know what they have and what they need to support, and a smart man makes his wife a queen, because if she's a queen, then he becomes a king. So we do know that the exile of Mitzrayim is the first exile. And all the exiles are kind of like a mimic to that exile. And yesterday I gave a lot of sources explaining that what happened in the exile of Egypt, it's a preparation, and there's a replica how the exile is going to be, the redemption from the exile will be now. So what we had in Egypt, it's going to be now exactly the same. And I don't want to repeat every word that I said yesterday. Yesterday was a very long lecture with a lot of very good solid information, solid sources, and the unbelievable hashgacha prati, the divine providence, is that now we are in the parasha that the book of Bereshit is ending, Yaakov is dying, after that all the tribes are dying, Yosef dies, end of an era, and next week we're going to go into the beginning of the exile and the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu, and the whole story starts. Which is very interesting, because I didn't even notice, but yesterday as I was giving over the lecture, I was like, look at that, we're talking about the revelation of the redemption, and we're in the parasha that Yaakov was the first time in the Torah, comes and says openly to his sons, let me tell you what's going to be in the end of days. So we're literally now between chapters in the Torah. One chapter of finishing the book of Bereshit and the history and the rebirth of the tribes and the nation, and then we're going into exile. So the exile in Mitzrayim, it wasn't like an overnight thing. It was a process. If you remember, you're going to read it tomorrow, next week, if you remember, it says that came a new king, and then slowly started putting decrees. In the beginning, everything was the same. Then the property taxes went a little bit higher, but just for certain neighborhoods. And then slowly things got affected, so to say. So at the time of the exile of Mitzrayim, in the beginning, they had a campaign that everybody has to work, socialism, and everybody contribute to the country. And everybody worked. The Egyptians, even Paro worked. Paro would go out in the morning with working clothes, and he would pretend that he's working, and then everybody would work. And they had many reasons for that. First of all, to slowly kind of bring them into slavery, because then when it comes in one shot, then it's very noticeable. But when you kind of wean the situation in, they didn't even notice that they're being manipulated to go into slavery. I'm sure you all remember the story that the advisors of Paro said, listen, there's a nation, they're kind of multiplying here. What are we going to do with them? And Paro says, maybe they're going to become more than us and take over us. Let's do something. Let's get rid of them. So they had a whole plan. And that's where you see how history always repeats itself, because also 80 years ago, 90 years ago, Hitler had a plan. You think overnight the Holocaust happened, and one morning he woke up and he's like, I'm going to get rid of these people? This was many years of a plan. Years just to build railroad tracks. Years just to build the death camps. It wasn't an overnight plan. And slowly, if you're looking at how it was in Germany, in the beginning everything was fine. And then in 1930, in 1931, in 1932, and I'm sure you know a little bit of history, and some of you are probably related to some survivors, and how it slowly became bad. My grandmother, she was born and raised in Berlin, and they ran away from Berlin when she was 17, the night before Kristallnacht. And she told me how in the beginning everything was fine. And then in school, the Jews had to sit on one side of the classroom. And a year later, they couldn't walk on a certain side of the sidewalk. And a year later, not a year, every few months something was added to the list. And they were in such denial, we're untouchable here. She told me numerous times that people came to warn them, listen, this guy is a nutcase. No, it's okay, it's going to pass. It's not going to affect us. Look at us. We're ruling the situation here. We're doctors, we're lawyers, we're bankers, we're investors, we have money. There's no such a thing as anti-Semitism. We have mezuzot on the door. We walk with a talit to the shul. Nobody can do anything to us. And people were in such denial that even in a month before that, they were still in denial. But if you're looking at the pattern, it slowly became harder and harder, and another decree and another decree. So exactly the same thing. That's what the Egyptian did. Slowly, kind of bringing them in. Now, it says in the Talmud, in Tractate Sotah, that Paro himself used to give an example. Would go out with a shovel, go out with a broom, and he would kind of like give an example, and then everybody would go after him. The king is doing it, so of course we're all going to participate. And slowly, they kind of like weaned them into the situation of slavery. And this slowly going in was to serve a few purposes. First of all, for them not to notice. More than that, the control of Paro was maybe the Egyptians will go and protect their neighbors. After all, everybody lived together. I also drive, I'm not used to that, but I now drive in through the neighborhoods. All the houses are all these sparkly lights and the Christmas trees, and when you're living amongst the nations. So same thing, what do you think in Mitzrayim they didn't live amongst the nations? There was one house a Jew, one house a Gentile, one house a Jew. Even in America, even if you live in a very Jewish neighborhood, you still see all the houses here decorated. So the same thing in Mitzrayim. So the government, so to say, the rulers of Mitzrayim said, they're probably friends with each other. So if we go directly against the Jews, then their Egyptian friends will go to protect them. So they so that's the purpose of going slowly into it. But here is where you see that it wasn't only slavery. At some point there was hate. It was anti-Semitism. This is the beginning of anti-Semitism. We must have something in our genes that we make people upset as a nation. People just look at us and they get upset. They get jealous, they get upset, whatever it is. If you look at history, there was never Jewish terror organizations. There was never Jewish movements that were like, okay, we're going to make a problem here. Jews were always like, just we're minding our own business. And somehow we are always being prosecuted and always being pointed at. So you see that also 3,500 years ago there was anti-Semitism. And not only that it was slowly got into hard labor, then it became into slavery. There's a difference between working hard than slavery. The reason why I'm going in all this preparation is because nothing changed. 3,400 years passed and nothing really changed. You are also all slaves. One person is slave to their job and they're working in their job for 12 hours. Another one person is a slave to his car and wiping the car all the time. That chas v'shalom, the car shouldn't feel bad. And then all of you are slaves to this little box that hypnotizing. It's a slave. That's slavery. Doesn't mean you have to carry bricks. When we're saying slaves in Egypt, we're imagining these poor men carrying big bricks and building pyramids. We didn't build the pyramids. Where does it say that we build the pyramids? This is an invention. It says in the Torah that we build 2 cities, Pitom and Ramses. It doesn't say anything about pyramids. And even in the Talmud it says we didn't build the pyramids, we build cities. And the Talmud says that everything that we build right away sunk in the ground. So there's nothing as a memory of what we built. But when we're saying Avadim Ainu b'Mitzrayim, we were slaves in Mitzrayim, we were imagining like people carrying bricks. No, nothing. There's no difference. The only difference between us and the people in Egypt 3,400 years ago that we have iPhones. That's the only difference. They also have culture. They had shows. We have movies. They had shows. We have Netflix. They had something else, whatever it is. They had fashion. They were dining. They had everything. The only thing is, the only difference is the cars and the iPhones. And they probably had some type of ancient Facebook system that that was a replica in our generation to enslave us. So they were slaves in bricks, and we are enslaved in our mind. We're all slaves here. And if a person is saying, I don't know what this guy is talking about, then you see that the slavery is in a very harsh situation that it's called denial. But there are very few people in our generation that can say, I'm not a slave. I'm completely free. And very few people can say that. It's not embarrassing to say I'm a slave, but we're all slaves. So we're not here to put anybody down. We just want to analyze the situation so we can understand where we are. Now, very interestingly, it says in the Midrash that at the time, one of the things that served them as a merit, the Jews, which they were called then the sons of Israel, they weren't called Jews then, they didn't change their clothes, they didn't change their mother tongue, and they didn't change their names. And that's already how we see in our generation. And again, I'm constantly comparing our generation to that generation. People here, some people don't, but we're changing our clothes, we look like everybody. Definitely changing the names. I mean, you have Isaacs and Jacobs, and it's you are Yaakov, you're not a Jacob. Say Yaakov, you have a beautiful name, carried with respect, with honor. So, and more than that, our mother tongue. So, some people are still stuck on the Yiddish or the whatever it is, but you see that they stuck with something. We also have to remember we're different. We're always different. We pray that a lot by saying that Hashem, you separated us from the nation. Doesn't mean that I'm better than anybody else. We're not looking at somebody from above. That's what a lot of people think, that the Jews are looking at the nations from above. And if you are doing that, then you're doing a mistake. That's not what the Torah says. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that I'm superior to the nations and I have to look above them. It says I'm different from them. I have 613 mitzvot, and my fellow Gentile has only 7 mitzvot. That's the difference. The only difference is that I have responsibility to teach the then Gentile Torah. But nevertheless, slowly in Mitzrayim, they went and multiplied. They became more, and that's what Paro was afraid of. So there was also then population control. They didn't have vaccinations then, but they wanted to populate, to control the population, somehow, some way or another. So it came in many different ways. Don't think for in this generation there's no population control. We're just, again, slaves to all sorts of different mentalities, but don't think for 1 second government's not trying to control the population. And they'll do it in many different ways. We're not going to get to this in this lecture, because then when I start talking about that, most people are like, what? Where did you come from? So, but this is not something we're going to talk about. But nevertheless, as they were going and multiplying and the slavery became worse and worse and worse, then the men started losing will to live. Because they were slaves. They were working 10 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours. And maybe the men are physically strong, but doesn't mean that necessarily mentally they were strong. They were degraded, they were humiliated, their mind was controlled, so they lost hope in life. They lost any type of respect, self-respect. They became very broken. And, for a man, this is something that women need to understand. I'm trying to figure out women, but I can definitely tell you, I figured out what it means to be a man. Men, on the outside, they're very strong. Well, some. But nevertheless, the inside, it's all just a show outside. A man, when you take away his honor or his dignity, he's a shmate. He breaks down completely. Very few men know how to receive humiliation or failure. A man, it's subconsciously, I'm talking about a man that is married and has kids. He has subconsciously the thought that I am the provider. I have to go and hunt. I have to bring food to the table. I'm the one who protects. I'm the one who's the man of the house. Subconsciously, because a lot of men don't even think like that. But a lot of men subconsciously understand, wait a minute, I am the man, I need to protect my wife. I need to protect my kids, like in nature. I need to also hunt and bring food. So when the man is degraded in many different ways, and mainly when he's humiliated, breaks his spirit completely. How many times you see a man that was successful financially, then lost his money for whatever, or there's a lot of financial problems, the man is torn from inside, because I'm not talking right now the ego, but that, wait a minute, I'm not able to provide to my wife. I'm not able to provide to my kids. Just this Shabbat, we had a beautiful Melaveh Malka. This man comes to me, looks easily in his late 50s. And he starts talking, and slowly the eyes start tearing, and then tear and tooth coming out. And he's telling me, listen, I have severe financial problems. I owe the credit cards a lot of money, thousands and thousands, and my house is in foreclosure. I didn't pay the mortgage for months. And he's like, I feel like a failure. I can't even give my kids what they need. I can't even give my wife the life that that I want to give her. And he's like, on the outside, I'm pretending like I'm fine, but on the inside, women are completely different. Men are very vulnerable in that respect, and that's what happened in Mitzrayim. Their pride was taken, their dignity, their honor. They were failures. And that's how Paro broke them. And I'm saying all this because you take the words that I'm saying and you'll see how you compare it to what's going on in our generation. And I don't know if you notice, the majority of people in this planet are suffering from some type of financial problem. It's not what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You have a minority now of people that are financially doing okay, and even them, it's not what it was. Once they used to make 10 million, now it's only 1 million. So yeah, they still have a million, but once they used to make 10. So everybody now is suffering some type of a financial problem. A lot of people are in situations you wouldn't even believe. Don't be impressed by what you see on the outside. But it's very easy to put things on credit cards and buy nice cars and houses and almost anywhere I go and speak in beautiful neighborhoods and upscale neighborhoods, and everybody comes to me and quietly tells me, listen, my house, I didn't pay already for 3 years, and I have like 200,000 on the credit cards, and I owe people money, and I don't know what to do. It's all like, but don't tell anybody. Don't worry. Everybody's the same thing. Everybody's whispering the same thing. So, and everybody's on the outside looks like everything's fine, but then the inside, Hashem Yerachem, they don't even know where it's coming from. But this is a good sign, because Mr. Mashiach is coming, because it says, "En ben David ba ad shetichle pruta min hakish." But Mashiach cannot come before everybody will lose value to money. In 2007, 2008, when the market crashed, a great Mekubal in Eretz Yisrael said, now is the shift in the world from physical to spiritual. Everything crashed, everything broke, people lost their fortune. How many people lost all their money? 2006, 2007, 2008, the mortgages, Madoff, whatever it is. How many people lost so much money? And we look at it as a tragedy. The spiritual eye says, no, this is a great news, which means the economy is crashing. When Mashiach is going to come, you think it's going to be an economy? You think you're going to have money when Mashiach comes? You think it's going to be stocks markets? And we're not going to have that. There's not going to be credit cards when Mashiach comes. We're going to trade everything. Everything's going to be trading. One country will produce rice, so it will give the rice to a country that produces tomatoes, and we're all going to switch with each other. And it's going to be a perfect world. There's not going to be economy, not going to be currencies. You're not going to owe money on credit cards. So now we see it's breaking into pieces, so it's just good news. But the reality is that everybody is suffering some type of a financial storm. Minority is somehow saved in that department. And there's probably some reason for that. Just, every time that I come here to America, I hear all these news. Now, I gave a big lecture in Great Neck, so I spoke with all the Great Neck people. And they told me that some law changed in the property tax. It cannot be written off anymore, and suddenly, all the property value went down. Millions of dollars worth of a house went down 50, 60, 70%. Why? Because they changed a law with the property tax. You can't write it off anymore as an expense. So, even in the minority that you will say are more financially stable, there's also storms over there. And again, this is all good news. Because it means that Mashiach is coming, and it's one step and another step and another step. Everything has to crumble down. Because to have a new beginning has to be a destruction of the old state. So it's all good news. But nevertheless, going back to what we were saying, the men in Egypt were also broken into pieces. They didn't have the will to live. They didn't have what to live for. They had debt. There wasn't credit cards then, but it's the same idea. And really what hurt them, there was no dignity. I see so many men, then they lose their fortune, they feel like a loser. I can't provide, I can't pay, I can't give my kids what they need, especially if they had it before. If you came with some background, it's devastating, at least for a man. When a woman takes it a little bit different, women adjust. A man, do you know what it is, what a kick to the ego it is? Once I would write a check like that, now I can't barely have to count every dollar in my pocket. This is devastating for a man. So I'm already telling that to the women, because the women, you're going to hopefully get some tools tonight, because you have to see how you, so to say, maneuver the situation, because you have the power. The women are much more powerful than men. Bechlal, we see anything in nature, women are much more powerful than men. This is something that's a misconception. Men maybe physically are more powerful, but that's it. But even in anything in nature, in most animals in nature, the female is stronger. So, in the Kabbalistic term to it, a woman is called a nukba, a receiver. And a nukba means a negative. So we think negative is a deficiency. Negative is a giver. Even if you look in electronics, the negative is always the one that gives, not the receivers. But nevertheless, that's why it says when Mashiach is going to come, nekevat testovev gever. It's going to switch. The roles are going to switch. But nevertheless, the women were the ones who were able to uplift. And, in history, this is something that is not so familiar to us as a nation of Jews, but in history, whenever there was a nation that would be conquered, the women would go to the conquerors. Not because necessarily they were kidnapped or forced, they wanted to go because these are now the losers, let's go to the winners. And that's what happened in many times in history, that a nation will conquer another nation. Then the women will willingly say, I don't want to be now with the losers, let me go to the winners. But in Judaism, that never happened. In all the times that we were losing or defeated, the women never left the men, they always stayed around. Now, you see that the women in Judaism are very loyal. And again, I'm not trying to put any faith or religion or a group down. I'm just more pointing out the good points in our faith, in our religion. Now, of course, there's the famous quote that we just mentioned before. This was brought down by a rabbi called Avira. Some call him Avira. There's different ways how to pronounce it. But that's where he quotes. And he says, Bischar nashim. Most people say, Bizchut nashim tzadkaniyot. That's not the quote. The quote is Bischar nashim tzadkaniyot. In the reward. It's not really the merit, rather the reward. A sachar is the reward, and the merit is a schut. But he says Bischar nashim tzadkaniyot, and he says that all the people in the generation of Todor nigalu bischutam, they were able to be redeemed in the merit of the women. Before I told you that we need the nation to do tshuva, we don't need all the Jews in the world to do tshuva, because that's not going to happen so easy. Mashiach maybe will be able to do such a thing. But we need a group. We need one strong group that their merits is going to affect the rest of the nation. So in the merit and the sachar of the women in the time of Egypt, then our fathers were able to be redeemed in that exile. Now the Midrash says many different stories, beautiful stories, that the women used to go with pitchers to bring water out of wells. And Hashem made a miracle, and with the water came a lot of fish in the water. So they either would cook it to the men, would go out to the fields and give them water and feed them fish. And there's another story that they used to sell the fish and take wine from that and then go and bring to the men and bathe them. The men that were working in the fields, tired, dirty, sweating, the women would come and spoil them, wash them off all the dirt, feed them and spoil them. And they would build their ego back. Maybe in the eyes of the Egyptians you are a slave, but in my eye you're my husband, you're my hero. So a smart woman knows how to build her husband and not to. And the role will change a lot. I mean, this is in any normal marriage that one needs to build the other. But a smart woman knows how to build her husband, because men are really, really like little kids. They just give them a little car and they'll be happy. So, and especially if it's a big car, they're even more happy. But really, men are little kids, and you know how many times I see men that they're standing with a suit and very distinguished, and then something very childish will be around, like get their attention. So, and I'm one of them. I'm not that I'm some rare species. I'm also a man. So, and I can say to myself, I love cars. You know, that's my weakness. I see cars, I'm like, you know, I lose power in my limbs. And my wife is always happy. One time we were in South Florida. You know, the cars are gorgeous: Rolls Royces, Ferraris, Lamborghinis. So my wife is like, I know what I like about you. Men, when they go in the street, they look at the women. You look at cars. And I was like, okay, fine. If that's what you like, fine. So even today, wherever I was this beautiful Lamborghini. I'm like, so I'm like a little kid. Give me a nice car, and I'll, suddenly you lose your direction. So a smart woman knows how to build her husband, to build his confidence, to build his faith, to build his self-esteem. So women have a very, very strong role and a lot of responsibility. Now I know there's going to be a lot of questions later probably. What about the women that says, I don't have a husband, or I lost my husband, or I'm still single, or I'm divorced. We'll get to that too. Nevertheless, you have kids, you have boys, you can. There's a lot more to do. Besides the fact that even if a woman is single, it's not good for anybody to be single. You have to look for your other half. But nevertheless, the women at the time used to strengthen their husband, used to build him up. And there's also another story in the Midrash that they used to have mirrors, and they used to make themselves look pretty. And they would go out to their husband. The husband was tired, leave me alone, I just came from work, let me just watch my news, my TV show. I mean, so then they didn't have a TV show. The men were broken, so the women would come, dress themselves up, put some makeup, and seduce them. Yeah, you know, come and be with me, so we can procreate. So these mirrors, I'm sure you heard the stories many times that with these mirrors, when there was the time when Hashem asked for contributions for the tabernacle, some people brought gold, some people brought silver and copper. Some of the women, they came with the mirrors. Moshe Rabbeinu was not happy with that. He actually rebuked the women. He's like, why are you bringing mirrors? It's not sniut. What you now trying to provoke now the men, or to do something that is not modest? And Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, back off. You know what these mirrors did? If there wouldn't be mirrors, there wouldn't be any nation to take out of Egypt. So back off. And what they did, they took the mirrors and they built the sink for the priests. And the priests would wash their hands in that sink before they work. And we see how this power, how it brings purity. I mean, what did the priests do in the sink? You had to wash their hands to bring purity to the hands and to the feet. So the sink was done for the purity of the hands. And you see what you learn from that there's nothing more pure than love. The women did it out of love. They didn't do it out of lust or something like that. It was true love. And you see that the connection, that the most purest thing one can experience is love. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to also give love to the right person. But nevertheless, we all need love in our life. Now, there are many special women in our history, and we're not going to go. At first, I thought when I prepared the class, maybe I should do like a class and start telling about each woman in our history, like some great thing that she did, and so we can relate with some of the women. But that would be too long and too many details, and we don't have much information about the women. They're modest. I mean, how much information you have about Sarah? You know, she was amazing. You have any information about Sarah? I'm talking about Sarah Imenu, of course. You have any information about Rivka? So we know that she was a great prophet. Other than that, we don't know much about them. But we do know about a few of them. We're going to go a little bit about some of our matriarchs. One of them, of course, is Miriam. It's brought down in the Talmud, in the same tractate Sotah, that when this whole thing was going on in Egypt, Amram was one of the chief rabbis of the generation, the father of Moshe. And he said, listen, what's going on here is horrible. And he gave a get to Yocheved. So he says, I don't want to be with you, because then I have to be physically with you, intimate with you, and I don't want to bring kids to the world, because they're going to be thrown into the water right away. And if Chas v'Shem somehow they're going to survive, they're going to be slaves. So he gave her a get. And now all the men did that. So all the men came and gave gets to their wives. because if you're married to your wife, you are obligated to have marital relations with her. So he did that. Came Miriam, a little girl. I mean, how old is Miriam from the Moshe Rabbeinu? She was a little girl. And she told him, your decree is worse than Paro. You're telling me I'm the chief rabbi of Egypt, and you're telling me he wasn't chief rabbi of Egypt, I'm just saying, he was a great rabbi. He's telling his daughter, you're telling me that my decree is worse than Paro? She tells him, yes, because Paro, his decree is only on the males. Your decree is also on the girls. And not only that, Paro's decree is on this world, your decree is Olam Haba. You are cutting off a nation. This little girl convinced her father, and he says, you know what, you're right. He went back, married off Yocheved. The Midrash says that Aaron and Miriam were the ones in the party. I mean, they didn't have a hole there with a 12-piece band. It was just Yocheved and Amram, and Aaron and Miriam, they danced around them. And of course, from that night came Moshe Rabbeinu. So, and then all the men married off their wives again. But we see the power of this little girl. Needless to say, you remember the story. Now we're going to read it. That how when Moshe was born, she was guarding him. When he was put in the little basket, she went and followed him. Miriam was a very, very unique woman. And you see here that she had mercy and compassion and these qualities that caused her father, who was a great Talmid Chacham, to rethink something so horrible. And Rabbi Akiva says a very interesting thing, and he says the women had a merit because they assisted the men, right? That was their merit. Because other than that, what was the merit that they're talking about the women had? So Rabbi Akiva says that the women got a merit because they assisted the husband. So comes here, he presents an interesting question by saying, why would the woman who only assisted gets a greater merit? The man should get the merit. He did the job. She only assisted. And a smart woman that she has a husband, she needs to assist her husband to get in the morning, go pray in a minyan. And I'll clean up the dishes, go to the Shiur Torah. Because men usually will be lazy, and a smart woman knows how to push her husband to go to Torah. Go to the minyan. Don't pray at home. Don't pretend like you're so holy. Hey, I prayed in the office. No, go pray in a minyan. Go to the Daf Yomi. Go to some type of a class. So, but still, it comes to the question, why would the women that they only assisted, they got a greater merit? Because they got the greater merit, because it says in the merit, in the sachar of the women, that they got out of the exile. So, in the Shiabud Mitzrayim, in the exile of Mitzrayim, the men had to work. They couldn't learn Torah. They couldn't do anything. It's the women that came and made them do it. So the explanation is that first of all, the women did an extra effort because they could easily say, just go to sleep. But they brought in an extra effort. And not only that they brought in an extra effort, they assisted, and not only that, the men are obligated in doing things, and women are not. A man is obligated in learning Torah. A woman is not obligated in learning Torah. But when a woman is assisting, then she's doing something she's not obligated. So therefore, the reward is for one who's assisting greater than the one who's actually doing. Just yesterday, I talked to somebody, whoever made the event in Great Neck. It was a beautiful event, a big lecture, and a lot of people came, and it was very inspiring. And the next day in the morning, he calls me and he thanks me. I tell him, you're thanking me? I just came and sat and talked. You moved 150 chairs. You made invitations. You ran around the town and put posters. You went and got the refreshments. You did everything. What did I do? I came and look in a comfortable chair, and I just talk. I don't do much. And I was explaining to him, that the one who's organizing, his merit is much greater than the one who actually did. I told him physically, what did we do? I sat for 2 hours. You worked for 3 weeks. So the one who's assisting, his merit is much, much greater than the one that's doing. So that's why the women, they got a much greater merit because they just assisted. They made the man do something. He just did what he was obligated on doing, and they just did something they're not even obligated. When you do something that voluntarily and you don't obligate it, then your sachar, your reward, is much, much greater. That's why men are obligated to learn Torah, but a woman that learns Torah, you don't have an obligation. But you know what happens when you learn Torah? You're much, much greater than the man, because you don't have to. So it's almost like doing something that you don't have to, you get a much greater reward. And different ways of looking at it. You know how many times I will come to one of my kids, I'm going to say Lashon Hara by saying who, but one of them, and I will tell him, fix the room. The room is a mess. Then I will come back after 15 minutes, nothing changed. Fix the room, please, before you go to sleep. 15 minutes pass, come to the room, nothing moved. It even became worse. Fix your room. Fix your room. And then has to come all sorts of threats. You're not going to fix your room? I'm going to fix it for you. I'm going to just throw everything to the garbage. So, and that's one kid. And then I have another kid that I don't even have to tell him anything. I just walk into the room and it's a mess. And then I walk into the room after half an hour. It's completely organized. I fix the room. I didn't even say anything. So what do you think I'm more happy with? I love all my kids the same. But one guy is not doing what he's obligated in doing, and the other person just did it without even asking, without even being told. So same thing here. If a man is obligated to learn Torah and he doesn't, then he's not doing what he's obligated. But when a woman who's not obligated to learn Torah goes and does it, then look, just imagine her reward, because she doesn't have to do it. So, you know, there's a question that in the Song of the Sea, Shirat Hayam, they were singing. Yashir Moshe, why are you happy? Look at the soldiers, they're all going down and drowning. Even the Malachi HaSharet was saying, wait a minute, well, they're happy when the soldiers are drowning? So what if they came to kill them? Hashem also said, whoa, they're still my creation. Don't be so happy when they're going down. But nevertheless comes a big question in the Midrash. Okay, we understood that the Egyptians had to be punished for all the slavery, so they went down in the water. But what did the horses do? Why did the horses have to go? Sus verochvo rama vayam. The horse and the jockey, it's not a jockey, the rider, they all went down in the water. So the commentary says, I understand the Egyptians had to get punished because they slaved and tortured and did many bad things to the nation of Israel. But what did the horse do? So the answer is that the horse assisted the Egyptians to do it. The horse could have rebel, even though it's an animal, but nevertheless, he assisted. He was also part of the punishment. So the horses also had to be punished. Now, there is a midrash, it's called Midrash Zuta, a small midrash on the book of Ruth, and it says there that Rabbi Acha, a great Tana, he says every person that marries a kosher woman, we're going to explain what's a kosher woman. It's not a woman that you eat, but she has an OU on her shirt, but rather kosher that her actions are kosher, honest, courteous, loving, giving, keeps family purity, she's modest, cares about the house and so forth. So he calls it Isha Kshera, that she does things that are in the path of the Torah. It says Ke'ilu kiyem et kol Torah kula. It's like as if he did the entire Torah. And he says that's why Shlomo HaMelech wrote Eshet Chayil from Aleph to Taf. I don't know if you ever noticed. If you didn't, then a few days ago on Friday when you read it, Eshet Chayil has 22 verses. Eshet Chayil Mimtza is Aleph. Batach Balef Ba'ala Bet. Right? Gamala Tuto Velo Ra Gimel. It goes Darsha Tzemer Ufishtim Daled. Hayta Koniat Socher Hey. If you go through Eshet Chayil, it's Aleph Bet Gimel Daled Hey. So Rabbi Acha says that's why it's written from Aleph to Taf, because an Eshet Chayil does from the beginning to end, does everything. That's an Eshet Chayil, a woman of virtue. And he's again giving credit to the woman. If a woman is kosher, and again it's not kosher because she has an OU on her, kosher is her actions are kosher, then the lucky husband is like as if he did the entire Torah. So look who's getting the credit here. The woman is getting the credit, not the man. The man is just the vehicle and the one who takes the garbage out. Now, there's a famous story with Eliyahu Hanavi that there was once a very rich man, and the rich man lost all his fortune, and unfortunately had to go and work in the field. And as he's working in the field, comes a man, comes Eliyahu Navi, in a shape of a man, and tells him, I can grant you 7 good years. You can take it now, or take it in the end of your life. Tells him, leave me alone. Don't you see I'm working here hard in the sun? I'm in pain. I have aches, and leave me alone. The next day, again, this man comes and tells him, I can grant you 7 good years. You can take these 7 years now, or 7 years at the end of your life. 3 times he repeated. Finally, the man says, you know what, let me talk to my wife. Smart husband, let me talk to my wife. So he goes home and he tells her, listen, there's this old man who comes and appears to me, and he tells me he can give me 7 good years. But I can take it either now or take it at the end of our life, the last 7 years. She tells him, take it now. Okay, he goes back to Eliyahu Navi, not knowing that it's Eliyahu Navi, of course. Tells, I'll take it now. He says, you are not going to even go towards your home, and you'll see how everything changes. And sure enough, his kids come home from school, and right on the doorstep, they were playing, moving a little bit of the dirt, they find a treasure. They sell the treasure, and overnight, they gain all their wealth, and they're super, super wealthy. Okay, so the wife is a smart woman, then right away, she says, this money was given to us as a present, let's start do charity. And they start going to all the Chinese auctions, giving money to yeshivot, giving money to this, giving money to there, all day long they just give charity. And they invite people to Shabbat and feed poor people and so forth. And 7 years pass, and Eliyahu Navi appears again, tells him it's time to come and take the money. I gave you money, I told you, it's going to be 7 years. Now it's time to give it back. So the man says, listen, last time I had to consult my wife before taking it. Let me go consult my wife again. He goes back to the wife and says, the old man came back. It's time to give the money. Now you would think that, the husband will right away, what are we doing? The wife is smart. She tells him, go back to this old man and ask him a question. And the question is very simple. Tell him, can you find somebody that is more trustworthy with the money you gave us to keep? We didn't buy our Mercedes. We gave it to charity. We didn't buy a beautiful house and went on a cruise. We gave poor people money. So he goes back to the old man and he tells him, can you find a more trustworthy person to where to deposit the money? You gave us a lot of money. We only did good and kindness with that. And sure enough, the man looked, thought, Eliyahu Navi, discussed it with Hashem, and Hashem says, no, this is the best trustworthy people. Not only that they should keep the money, give them more so they can continue doing what they're supposed to do. So it says there in the Midrash how it says that at the end, the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave them so much, and he quotes a verse from Yeshaya that it says, Haya ma'aseh tzedakah shalom, the action of charity, that's what brought them the peace. So again, you see how the width of the smart woman that even Avraham Avinu that was about to do a decision. The Kadosh Baruch Hu told him, Kol ma she'ishtecha Sarah omeret lecha shma bekola. Whatever your wife Sarah says to you, you listen to her. And in the same midrash that I mentioned before, in Midrash Ruth, it says there that Rabbi Acha says there that all the generations, not only the generation of Egypt were redeemed because of the women, rather all the generations will be redeemed because of the women. So we had many other exiles, but nevertheless now we're concentrating on the last exile. So we know that the women were the one who had the merit, the power, the reward. So also in this generation it's about the women. I gave a similar class to that, I think like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And right after that, we decided to open a women's seminary. And everybody told me, why are you doing that? You're opening a seminary for women? You're going to teach women? And I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? So now when I go on trips, I have like 100 mothers. Are you dressed warm? Are you eating enough? The midrasha is for more mature women. It's not for 16 or 18-year-olds. All our students are mature women. We have a student, she's 79 years old. We have students in their 40s and 50s and 60s. It's not a place for a mature woman that wants to learn Torah, whether it's a week or a month or a year. Where is she going to go? So we made a beautiful midrasha in Tzfat, and mature women, they come and learn there. And some of them move to Tzfat and they learn. And some of them come for a week, and some of them come for 2 weeks, and some of them come for a day. But nevertheless, when you said before about the inn, we got a building that was once a 5-star hotel. That's what I wanted. When I'm going to bring women into a halfway house. So if I want a woman to learn Torah, well, I have to bring her to something fancy. So we looked for a fancy place. So Kadosh Baruch Hu has all the answers. So right behind our house, we find a beautiful 5-star hotel, gorgeous rooms, gorgeous designs, and we're like, okay, perfect. Now we can bring the women and spoil them. And the rooms have jacuzzis and beautiful beds, high wooden ceilings, and beautiful views of the mountains of the Galil. So that was the idea. Let me bring if bizchut nashim tzadkaniyot, if in the merit of righteous women we're going to get out of Egypt, out of Mitzrayim, out of this exile, then let me start teaching the women. So, and right away we opened it, and then of course everybody was laughing at me. What, you're going to teach women? And in my mind I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Now I'm going to be, around all these ladies all the time. I mean, not chasver, I'm saying it in a funny way, but when I live on a trip, I have a lot of mothers. Take a sweater. I heard it's very cold in New York. It's okay, I have a wife already. No. Did you take gloves? So I get emails and texts, are you eating enough? Yeah, I'm fine, I'm eating. But nevertheless, the merit of the women is what's going to take us out of this exile. So obviously we have to nourish the women, and a smart husband have to understand that. But in this midrash, where Rabbi Acha says that in the merit of the more righteous women, we're also going to go out of all the exiles, then he quotes a verse in Tehillim that can be found in Tehillim Tzadik Chet 98, verse 9. And the verse says, Zachar chasdo ve'emunato levet Israel. He had remembered the kindness and mercy to his nation, but to the house of Israel, Bet Israel. Now, the Midrash says it doesn't say Bnei Israel, because Bnei goes on the male. Bet Israel, that goes on the women. And here you see already a hint, because we want to get with some information what you need to focus on. I mean, at the end of the day, the class is to figure out what a woman needs to focus on so she can be an engine to bring the redemption. So it says in Beit Israel, the Beit, the house, the building of the house, that the house is kosher, the food is kosher, that there's purity in the house, the family purity. The woman is the one who builds the house. I mean, not physically, but the woman is in Hebrew, a woman who lives in the house is called a keret bait. And a lot of people think it's a degrading way. A keret bait, when she's like the house cleaner. But that's just a misconception. A keret bait comes from the word in Hebrew ikar. Ikar is the main. A woman is ikar habayit. The man just comes in the evening. Even, we know that even if a man learns Torah all day long, only if the woman accepts his Torah on Friday night when she lights candles, then the Torah comes into the house. Which means the man can learn Torah all day long. Be in yeshiva from morning to night. When the woman is lighting her candles on Friday, she has to have in mind that she's accepting the mitzvot and the Torah that her husband is doing. The woman is exempt from most of the mitzvot. She doesn't have to put tefillin. She doesn't have to put tzitzit. She doesn't have to pray 3 times a day. And many other things. She's not obligated in learning Torah. But nevertheless, she is just think of the merit of learning Torah. But nevertheless, the husband is the one who goes and works spiritually. And on Friday, you have to understand, women, that when you light the candles, you have to have in your mind, I'm accepting now the Torah that my husband learned, and only then the Torah can come into the house. So it says specifically Bet Israel. So first hint, word of advice is that the house has to be holy. And holy is not only that there's good kosher food there, that everything is in the house is holy. The education is holy. What's coming into the house, whether it's the movies and the music and the rest of the things, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. And it says there in the same midrash that all the redemptions that we had, and we had a lot of redemptions. I mean, we're relating to our redemption to Mitzrayim, but we had other redemptions. We were exiled twice when the Holy Temple was destroyed. One time we came back, that was a redemption. But nevertheless, all the redemptions, they came in the power of emunah of the women. These are called righteous women, because it's all about emunah. If you don't have emunah, you don't have faith, then you can't do anything. And all the redemptions it's talking about Mitzrayim, it's talking about the story of Purim, we're talking about the story about Chanukah. We're going to get to these two very soon. And very interestingly, in case you haven't noticed, the women didn't participate in the sin of the golden calf. It was only the men. When they came to collect all the jewelry, the women were like, well, I'm not giving you my earrings. You go find somewhere else. I'm not giving you nothing. So, not because they were cheap with the earrings and the bracelets. They were like, I'm not participating in such a thing. That's why women, they got the Yom Tov of Rosh Chodesh. I have a beautiful class on that online. You should, if you didn't see it yet, you should go and look at it, because I'm explaining there that we got 3 festivals: Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuot. Each one of the forefathers, we got the festival in the merit of the forefathers. So, Avraham Avinu, we got Pesach. If you remember, when the angels came to him, it was Pesach then. He told Sarah, go and make matzot. So in the zchut of Avraham Avinu, we got Pesach. In the zchut of Yitzchak, we got Shavuot. On Shavuot, there was the giving of the Torah. There was the blowing of the shofar. That was the shofar of the ram when after Isaac, Yitzchak was almost slaughtered. And of course, Yaakov is Sukkot. When he went out of Haran, he put all the sheep in Sukkot. So we got the festival of Sukkot. Originally, all the tribes, we have 12 tribes, were supposed to get the Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is called a Yom Tov. To some communities, it's even called a Yom Tov Katan. Some communities, they fast on Erev Rosh Chodesh, because it's like a Yom Kippur. It's such an auspicious day. Rosh Chodesh is a very powerful day. Originally, the tribes were supposed to get that was supposed to be a holiday, but then everybody sinned. So the Rosh Chodesh was given to the women. Women on Rosh Chodesh, they're not allowed to work and do laundry and mop and schmop and the men have to do that. And Rosh Chodesh, I'm sure you were once or twice invited to Rosh Chodesh events for the ladies. The Rosh Chodesh is the holiday for the ladies. Why? Because they didn't participate in the golden calf. Not only that, it says also in that midrash that the Kadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, why didn't you send female spies to Eretz Yisrael? If you would send female spies to Eretz Yisrael, we wouldn't have the problem. The males were the one who came back and started talking Lashon Hara. And it actually quotes, if you remember, with the daughters of Tzofchad, when they came and they demanded a piece of the land, Hashem says, listen, look how much they like the land. They want a piece of it. And therefore, he told Moshe Rabbeinu, if you would send women as spies, we wouldn't have a problem. They would come and say, this is the best place to go. Let's wrap it up. So even Hashem was like, listen, why are you sending men? You're sending men to do this job? Of course they're going to come and say Lashon Hara, because they're going to see hard work. But nevertheless, so we see that the women have a very upper hand when it comes to redemptions. Not only that, we see that, we just mentioned a few of the ladies, but the redemption always came with what's called Mesirut Nefesh, with self-sacrifice. The first one who had Mesirut Nefesh was Miriam. She went Mesirut Nefesh. You know what it means for a little girl to look at the little basket and take care of her brother from far away? And Yocheved did Mesirut Nefesh. If you remember, the maidservants, not the maidservants, the meyaldot, the midwives. It's called in the Torah different names, Shifra and Pua, but that's Yocheved and Miriam. You know what a Mesirut Nefesh? When you have a gun to your head, don't deliver the baby. No, it's okay. They used to go to the fields and deliver the babies. The stories even says that there was such Mesirut Nefesh that they would go to the fields. The women would go to the fields and have their babies in the fields. And the story says that the kids would stay in the fields. The women would come home. They wouldn't come home with babies. And when the kids came home all grown up, the mothers would tell them, who took care of you? And they would answer, some young guy came and took care of us. A young guy? Yeah, very broad, good, handsome, young guy. They didn't know who's this young guy who takes care of all the kids. When they went through the ocean, and the ocean opened, then this information came, because all the kids says, oh, Zeh Livan Vero, that's the one who took care of us. Hashem came down, and it says angels used to come down and feed the kids. So we see that they had unbelievable self-sacrifice, Miriam and Yocheved. And then there's another lady who had unbelievable Mesirut Nefesh. Her name is Batya, the daughter of Paro. She wasn't even from the nation of the Jews, or how we call it. She wasn't even Jewish. But she saw the child, and she wanted to save him. She opened the little box, and what do you know? Look, a little baby. Now, she's the daughter of Paro. She could have right away turned it on into the CIA, to the Secret Service, and go and throw and get rid of it. But nevertheless, it says, very interesting, it says that she opened the little basket, and it says, "Vatiftach vatir'eh et hayeled." She opened and she saw the little boy. And then after that it says, "Vehine anar boche," and the teenager is crying. A nar. He was 3 months old. What do you mean, a nar boche? That's what it says in the text. So he was so big and strong, his voice was like a teenager. But why, the commentaries are asking, why does it says, "Vatir'eh et hayeled"? She saw the yeled. Should say, "Vatishma," that she heard him crying. So Moshe Rabbeinu knew about the danger, even though he was a little kid, so he cried without a sound. He just moved his mouth, like making the movements of crying, but with no sound. So that's where she says she heard it, and she saw it and didn't hear it. But nevertheless, she hid him for so many years. She didn't tell Paro who it is. If she would tell Paro who it is, then he would kill him. And she raised him. There's a midrash that says that why did she get her name Batya? Because Hashem told her, you took care of my son, even though you're not his mother, so I'll take care of you, even though you're not my daughter. So he called her Bat Yud-Kei, the daughter of Hashem. So from that, actually, by the way, from Miriam, from Yocheved, and from Batya, Moshe Rabbeinu learned the character trait, that this is another thing that we need to learn from, and this is called Rachamim, mercy. Moshe Rabbeinu learned mercy from these 3 women. This is something, and unfortunately, most people don't really have this character trait. It says, how do you know when you want to see who's a Jew? It says that this is a nation of Rachmanim. They're very merciful. They have a lot of mercy. If you see somebody who's very cruel, you're saying, how can that be a Jew? A Jew has to be very Rahman. Nevertheless, where do we see that Moshe Rabbeinu became very merciful? And if you remember when he grew up and he went out to the field and he saw an Egyptian hitting the worker, and he felt bad for him and he killed the Egyptian. And then we see another time when he ran away from Egypt, he came to the well and he saw the daughters of Yitro. Then the mafia came there that day. I mean, the Torah doesn't say mafia, but that was the mafia. They came to took water, and the mob came and says, it's our territory. Give us our 10%. And Moshe Rabbeinu protected them. Not only did he scare them off, he also did work for them. They all went back and said to their father, to Yitro, this Egyptian guy, he came, he worked, he protected us. And then, of course, there's another story in the Midrash. At one time, Moshe Rabbeinu used to work for Yitro. He was the shepherd of Yitro. Yitro had a lot of sheep, so Moshe Rabbeinu was hired. And one time, one of the sheep ran away. Moshe Rabbeinu ran after him. He thought he's running away, but the sheep was thirsty. He went to the water and started drinking. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, you know what? He was only thirsty, that poor little guy. But now he ran so far away. How is he going to have energy to go back? So he picked up the sheep, put him on his shoulders, and he carried him back. And that's where Hashem says, he's so merciful, so much mercy, even on a little animal. He's going to be my leader, who's going to lead the nation like a nation of flocks. So we see here another big thing, that in order to be a redeemer, to have any type of redemption, has to be a lot of rachamim, a lot of mercy. That's where we're constantly praying to Hashem. That we should see the return of the glory of Hashem to Zion, which is Yerushalayim. Rachamim, with mercy. Have some rachmanus, how they say.